Hi, my name is Chandan and I welcome you to my channel. This is the sixth video in testng tutorial series, and today we are going to see what is testng XML file. Okay, so let's quickly start. So the agenda for today is create and understand testng XML file. We are going to see how we can create testng XML file, and then I will explain you the content of that XML file. All right, and right after that, we are going to see how we can configure the same XML file to execute tests that are spread across multiple classes within that project. Okay, and similarly, if the test if we have multiple classes within different packages, then how we can configure the same testng XML file to execute all the classes, all the test methods that we have within those packages. And after that, we are going to see this is going to be a very interesting one, that how we can configure the same testng XML file to execute other testng XML files. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So I don't have much slide today. These are the only two slides which I had: the introduction and the first thumbnail and the agenda. After that, we have only thank you. So today we will be totally into Eclipse. So let's start Eclipse. All right, so this is the Eclipse, and these are the projects from my last recording. And this is the fresh project. Okay, in order to save time, I have already created a basic Java project. I have named it as Xml demo. The reason we have X here is I wanted to keep it all the way down so that it doesn't, show up between them. So that's why I added X there. Okay, and that's why it is listed at the end. Okay, now within this I have added testng library. Okay, and within source folder we have three different packages: books, computer, and mobile. And within books we have these many classes. Okay, so I have categorized all this. I mean, these are types of books, so I have classified them, and I have kept it in one particular package. Similarly, for computer we have Lenovo and we have mi notebook, and for mobile I have all available and upcoming classes. Now these classes I mean the name of these classes I have picked from amazon.com. I'll come to that later, but right now let's stick to these the structure that I have explained you. So the books, computers, and mobiles, they are packages, and these are the classes within it. Okay, so if you have been following my videos from the beginning, you must have observed that I always execute my test by right clicking the test in a class. Let me just open it. Okay, these are just the simple tests that we have with at the test annotation. So this makes the method as test method. So all these classes have, one or the other test methods. Okay, so if I open my notebook, you will find the same number of test cases with some differences. Okay, just to keep it different. Okay, so what I was saying is, you must have observed that when I tried to run this particular, uh, the test in this class, then what I did was I right click on this class and I used this option run as testng. Okay, and this was executing all the tests that were present there in the class, right? So now, but this is not how we do in companies, right? When we work for a big project, this is not how we do. We we are not, if we have 100 test cases, right? That is the case actually. We may end up with having 50, 60 classes within a project, right? And those classes can have multiple tests to execute. Okay, so if you just go and right click and execute one after the other, that will take, I don't know how many hours for you to execute, create report, and compile the data and show it to your peers. So that is not the right way, because you are a automation engineer. You're supposed to find the right way to automate it. Everything should be automated as far as possible. Okay, so you can think of then the second option that comes in our head is, or the second option that is provided by testng is, we can create an XML file, and that XML file will be used as a configuration file for you to execute your test. Okay, if you haven't understood, don't worry. I'm going to show you what I'm going to try, what I'm going to explain you. So let's go to the slide once. So we are going to attempt this first one. We are going to create, and then we are going to understand what is testng.xml file. So we are going to create XML file now. All right. So say for example, this was one day. When you right click on it, run as testng, this will execute my test. But if I want to run it another way, let's run it another way. So how do we do that? You have to right click on class, go to all the way to the down to the bottom, testng, and you will find here convert to testng. Okay, so select that option. So when you click on that, you will find a interface which looks like this. Okay, you'll find a location where it is going to create this particular file. Okay, if you see the name here, testng.xml file, this is the default file name for the XML. So that's the reason why everyone says XML, testng.xml file. Okay, because the name is default. So, and that's the reason why we have the same name in the title as well. Okay, because if I keep it something else, then you may get confused, and that's why I'm just following the standard. So test.ngxml file, and this is the name of the suite. So let's keep it, make it suite demo, and let's keep the test name as test demo. Okay, so these things are done. Now if you see in this preview, okay, if you observe, this looks like an XML document, right? All these nodes, okay, within which we have parameters, we have name, we have values, right? So this looks like an XML document, and this is actually going to be created as a file, and that file is called would be called test.ngxml file. Okay, so don't worry about all these things. I will explain you later, but right now if you see parallel mode, it is none, thread count is blank. Okay, and just hit next, and then okay, it will ask you to import. Just ignore this and hit finish. Okay? I've never understood why it is importing, though we already have this import statement, but still it says that import. So if you have the answer, just let me know. Okay, so now if you see what changes it made, we have created a new test engine. I mean, a new file here within our project, right? This in the root directory itself, we have a new test.ngxml file, test.ngxml file. So this is how we create a test.ngxml file. So let me just open and see the details of test.ngxml file. All right, so it has opened it. Now if you see, this is the same template that you saw in the last UI, I mean the interface, right? So this was the suite name that we gave, and we gave the test name as test demo. This is a thread count. This is used when we run our test case in parallel. We want to run our test or class in parallel. That is when this is used. But as of now, I'm getting rid of this because this might confuse you. So just we are just going to get rid of that. I'll explain you later when I create a video for parallel execution. Okay, so I'll explain you where there that what is parallel execution and what is thread count and all those stuff. Okay, so just to keep it simple here in this video, I have removed it. Okay, and then we have the class. This was the class, if you remember. Art was the class. So within classes we have class node, and the name is books.arc. Why do we have books? Books is the name of the package. So this is how we give the name of the class package, and then finally the name of the class. Okay. Now if you observe this is the same hierarchy that testng follows while executing the test. It starts from suite and then test, and within test we have classes, and within classes we have class, and within classes we can have methods as well. Okay, so I will cover that method part in a later video, probably next video. Okay, but not this video. So because we have a lot many things to cover, so if I accommodate that concept here, then it will go overshoot the time that I have planned for this video. Okay, so this is how the basic test.ngxml file looks. Okay, and okay, so and if you can ignore this, these are the basic lines for XML. Okay, our main values starts from this suite node. Okay, so if you observe this, okay, this is how we create test ng. Now, understanding part. Let's understand what it is. Why do we use testng.xml file? Okay, what is the need? So every project, if you are from Java background or if you have seen a Java application, the source code, or any automation framework, automation projects, for instance, you may have seen properties file, or you may have used config file, or if you are from .NET background and you're using C Sharp as the language for your automation, then probably you may have seen package.config file or just config file, app.config file. Now, if you observe there, these files are in XML format, and all they have is key, and all they have is data for the project, for the application to use. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick example that you have given the name browser equals to Chrome. Okay, so the application, the automation framework that you have, or the automation project, sorry, automation project will take that value, browser, and the name is Chrome. So you have configured your application, you have written the code in such a way that, hey, go and check the name of the browser, and accordingly you open the browser. So you have mentioned the browser name as Chrome, which in the configuration file, in the config file, and you have told the and your application is going to read that file and check the node value. The node name is browser and the value is Chrome, so it will invoke Chrome browser for you. Okay, and it is not going to invoke Chrome, Firefox, or Internet Explorer. So that is how we configure our test. That is how we configure our automation project, right? To set up our project, we depend highly on configuration values, right? So similarly, for this project and for testng to execute our test, it uses this XML file. This is where we tell testng that, hey, these are the data that you have to use, and whatever the data I am supplying here, based on these data, you execute my test. Okay, this is a nitty-gritty, a brief explanation of what is testng.xml file. I'm not going into detail because if I go into detail, it may be overwhelming for you and you might get confused. So this is just a configuration file for testng to execute your test. Okay, just simple that. And similarly, the way you can configure it, similarly you can control the execution as well. Okay, so say for example, this is within this XML file, you have mentioned the name, you have mentioned the class as books.art. If you want to execute fiction.java as well, all you have to do is copy this and enter and write fiction. Okay, so right now, after you have made these changes, testng will execute only those tests which are available within this class, art and fiction. It will ignore all the rest of the class that we have or in the project. Okay, so let me quickly run this. Okay, and this is how you run it. The way you run this art.java or a class run as testng test. Okay, now this is something you should notice. Run as, if you right click on a class level and run as, you will find testng test. But if you right click on an XML file, testng XML file, right click on it, run as, you will find testng suite. Okay, why suite? Because this is actually a suite file. You will find suite here, right? So that's the reason why it says testng run as testng suite. So let's quickly run it and see what happens. Okay, so all those sysout statements here. Let's go to this running suite report. If you see here, it has executed all the methods from books.art and all the methods from books.fiction. All right, so you can see that it has executed both the classes and all the methods, but it has not executed any of the rest of the classes from that package or from this project, right? So this is how you configure testng to execute your test from the app, from your project. Okay, so this is what I hope I have not explained in detail, but I have just given you idea about what is testng file. Okay, testng file is a file where you configure your test and you control your test as well. Okay, you control the execution. You tell testng what to do and what not to do. Okay, in plain terms. Okay, so let's go to the second one, configure testng XML for multiple classes. Okay, so we just saw that, but I'll just explain you in detail, more in detail. So if you see here, we have suite, we have test, and we have classes. Now, if you see, this is a plural word, classes, and within classes, we are specifying class and class, right? And the first class is art, second class is fiction. So you can add multiple class. Okay, right now, if say for example you want to run execute lenovo.java from which is in a different package from computers, right? So let's add and see if that execute all the tests that we have in Lenovo, right? So we have 1 2 3 4 5 tests in Lenovo class. Okay, so let me just make some change. Let me just copy this and add it within classes. Okay, remember that we have to add uh, any change that we are doing in the right node. So class name, we are adding another class. Okay, so let me just change correct this package name. We want to run computers and Lenovo. Okay, Lenovo, control S. Okay, all changes done. Let's try to run this again. Run as suite. So let's see if it runs computer.lenovo along with art and fiction. So if I come here, you can see that it has executed all the methods within book.art, books.fiction, and computer.lenovo. It has executed all of them, right? So this is how you execute test in different classes, okay, using testng XML file. Tomorrow, if you want to add something else, then you can go with that as well. And this is how actually we execute our test using testng XML file. Because you cannot go and right click and execute all of them one after the other. Okay, so this comes very handy, and this is a very important feature provided by testng. Okay, and let's go to so I showed you how we can configure testng XML file for multiple classes. Okay, so let's jump to the next one, multiple package. Same thing, configure testng XML for multiple package. Okay, now, first thing, I want to tell you that the name that you see here, testng XML file, it does not have to be testng XML file. You can name it anything you like. You can name it PQRXYZ. You can name it, you give your name or anything like, okay? And we can have multiple testng XML file within a project, okay? Let's do that. Let me create that now. Let's leave it as it is. Now, in order to create testng file for packages, you want to execute your test on package level. Okay, on package, with package level I mean all the test that belongs to different classes within a package or different packages. Okay, so let's say for example for books, I want within books we have these many classes, and each class have different test. So right click on book. Okay, books, right click on it. Same thing, go to testng, convert to testng, and it will give you the same interface. So here it gives you an option to this is an editable field, so it gives you an option to create a file of your choice, the name of your choice. So let's go for testng books package. Let's keep it just books. Okay, and what you have to do is, yeah, let me just make it book test book. Okay, you can leave it as it is, it's up to you. Okay, but here this is something important, class selection. If you see right now, it is on classes. So if you see the detail that the file that will be created, it has classes and it has listed all the classes within the package books. Okay, why books? Because we are selecting book, we chose the package level, right? We chose a package to create for our testng XML file. So that's the reason why we have all these classes listed. But I told you that we want to create testng XML file on the package level. So you have to do is what you have to do is click on this and select package. Now if you see, the XML file is short now, the XML is very small now, and the changes that you will see is we don't have classes anymore, but instead of classes we have packages, right? And within packages we have books, right? The package that we selected. Okay, so just click on finish. Okay, and you have another testng.xml file created with the name testng books. Okay, now let's quickly compare this testng.xml file with the old testng.xml file that we have, this one. Okay, so this one is here and the package one is here. Everything is same. I mean, the suite name we gave suite books, textbooks, test books, test demo, suite demo, and things are same. But here if you see, we created that on class level, so we have multiple classes here, but this one we created on package level, so we have multiple package. All right, so I just wanted to show you that there are some similarities and there are some differences as well. So let's close this. Let me get close rid of this. So let's run this particular package, this particular XML file. So right click on this XML file, run as testng suite, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it has executed all the tests that we have. Okay, so let me tell you that I haven't used Selenium script within those methods because if you see, I have these many tests executed. Okay, total test run is 40. Okay, so if I use Selenium script, it will do all those actions, invoking browser, performing some action, signing out, close, everything. So that will take a lot of time. Okay, so just consider that those sysout statements can be replaced with Selenium script whenever you want it. Okay, so let's okay, now let's come to this result section, result of running suite. Let's see what happens. So we have book art, all of them created, book fiction, books. So all the classes were executed at once. Okay, all we provided was the name of the package, right? And all my tests were executed successfully in just one shot. Okay, now if you want to add another package, say for example you want to add test within this package, computers. So all you have to do is just copy this and you have to put it just below that. Okay, computers. All right, hit save, and we have two classes, and within each class we have 5 test methods. So let me just run this again. Okay, run as test suite. Cool, everything is done, all succeeded. So you can see we have books. All right, and we have computer, and we have computer. All right, computer Lenovo, computer MI notebook. So all of them executed successfully, right? So this is what I wanted to show you for package level. We saw on class level and we saw on the package level as well. Okay, let's go to the third one, the most interesting one. Configure testng XML for file, XML file for multiple suite. Now I told you in the beginning that these files are nothing but suite file. Okay, they are called suite file, testng suite files. Okay, so what if I have multiple testng XML file? Okay, let me just rename this. Say for example, let me just refactor, rename. This is my smoke suite. Okay, I have few classes there. Okay, I have few classes, and these classes have few tests which are, I want to run them as a part of my regression. Okay, and I have saved it as, okay, as a part of my smoke. Okay, and this testng book XML, where I am executing the test within computer and books, all of them. Let me rename it to regression. What did I do? I'm sorry, I executed. All right, no problem. Okay, let me rename it to refactor, rename, regression. Okay, and this is how you can create different suites for your execution. To say for example, you have smoke, you have the classes within that suite which you want to execute as a part of a smoke testing. Just when do we perform smoke? Right after when you receive a build for test, right? So the developer pushes the build, and you want to perform some, limited number of test cases just to see the health of the build, if the build is, testable or not. So you perform some smoke testing over that. So you will trigger your smoke automated test, which which you have configured as smoke testing, smoke test. So you will add all those tests in those classes, and then you create an XML file. Okay, so these are the classes where you have the smoke test. Okay, and you're going to execute them. So if you see a project in your company, or if you're going to work in a company, you will find XML file. If they have used testng for their project, then you will find different XML suite for them, for your project as well. So you can execute them. Similarly, what if I have a XML file, okay, which can execute all the XML files, which can execute all this XML file. With XML, I mean all the suite. Okay, so let me just create a dummy XML file. Okay, so uh, to create a dummy XML file, just click on this XML, copy, smoke XML, and paste it here. Okay, so let's rename it as suite, or maybe complete suite. Complete suite. Complete suite, sorry. Okay, so let's open this complete suite, which is a replica of the smoke suite. So what we have to do is we have to get rid of this test, everything. Okay, since we are running different suites, right? Okay, just a minute, let me just show you this. Since we are running multiple packages, so we put those packages within packages node, right? Similarly, these files are nothing but they are suite files, so we have to keep these file as a part of suites node. Okay, and how do we do that? We have to add uh, suites, all those suites within this node. So let's write like this. Let's add the suite files. Okay, enter, and this is where you have to add your suite files. So you have to suite file, and you have to give the path, and path is nothing but the name of the XML file. Okay? These XML files, they are in the root folder of this. Okay, if they are within a folder, then you will have to add the folder name and then slash, and then you put in the name of the folder. But since they are in the root folder, these files are in root folder, so you have to put the name here. So the first one is regression.xml. Okay, and you end the node. Okay, similarly copy this, and the other file is smoke.xml. Okay. Now if you run this, this is my file which will execute the suites that we have mentioned here. Okay, these are the two suites which will be executed. So when I say these are two suites, that means all the test methods that we have within this within those classes, within the classes and packages that we have, or whatever we have in those XML suite file, they will be executed. Okay, so let's me just go and right click, run as testng suite. Okay, it is executed, and you can see that we have 50, I guess, yeah, 50 tests that were executed. Okay, and if you see here, let me just shrink it, we have two suites. Okay, the first suite is suite book. Let me shrink it. The first is suite books, and the second one is suite demo. And where it is picking the name from, right? It is picking the name from these files. Suite books is the name of the suite within this suite file, and suite demo was the name of the suite within of for smoke suite, and that's the reason why we have these two names there. suite books and suite demo. So these both the suite file were executed successfully by using a third suite file. So similarly, if you have multiple, more than 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever the number you have XML file, and you want to execute all of them, then all you have to do is just create a dummy XML file and add this particular statement, add the suite file that you want to execute as a part of that execution. Okay, so this was the suite at a level execution. Now let me come, I forgot to mention one more thing. Say for example, you have a suite test classes class. Okay, now you can have multiple, you can have multiple tests within suite. Okay, like this is a smoke one. Okay, I'm just using smoke one so to show you what I wanted to explain. We can have multiple level of test. This is test, and this is, let's say for example, this is test demo. Let's make it test demo 2. Okay, and within this test demo test, I want to execute only one class. Okay, the test within art class, and here I want to execute these two classes. This is nothing but categorization of test, right? You can have, say for example, module for test on test demo. I mean, within books you can have multiple categorization. You can categorize them as different tests, right? So this is how you can do test demo and test demo 2. So you can have multiple layer of test. This is one, and this is the second one. Okay, so let me just run this. This was a part of smoke, so right click on it and run as test suite. Execute it, and let's go to this. And if you see here, we have two level of testing. The test layer, I mean testing on test level. This is a test demo and test demo 2, right? We just created another, we have just added another test node, and this has executed and it is shown in the report as well. And similarly, I mean, I have shown you the suite level as well, and this is the test level. And similarly, we saw this class level as well. Okay, and yeah, the final thing that I wanted to say here is, once you execute any test using a testng XML file or any of this file, testng creates some document for you. Okay, it adds a folder test output, and this is where you get all the logs and all the files, I mean, HTML report basically. And there are other stuff as well, but let me just show you. If you remember, we ran this complete suite, and we gave the name suite demo, and we have another one where we have suite books, right? So all this suite, whatever the name you had given, you have the folders created in from different files. Suite books from here, suite demo from the other XML file, and all the, and one from the other one. If you open this, it has created an HTML file. Open this and you will find a report for that particular test on the test layer, on the test level actually. So this is what was executed. This is an HTML file. And similarly, we have an email level report as well, this one. So if you open this, it will give you all the report of all the tests that were executed, whether they were passed, failed, how many were skipped, how many were failed, and everything. Okay, you get all the details here. And if you have any error, then it will be this, I mean, it will show you the details of that error as well. So within books art, we have these methods that were executed. Fiction, these were executed. Lenovo, these were executed. Okay, test demo passed. I mean, you will find many details, and this is what you can share with your manager or colleagues. But generally, we don't use this report. We use some third-party libraries to generate report. The one which is very famous is extent report. I will create a tutorial on that as well, because that is very interesting tool to use. Most of them are using, so that's why it's better we all know it. Okay, so this is what I wanted to discuss as a part of testng XML file. If you have not understood anything, or if there is any doubt, just let me know. You please put that question in the comment box. I will be more than happy to help you with an answer. Okay, and if it requires more detailed explanation, then I'll create a video and I'll publish it. Okay, so again, just I'm iterating one last thing, that testng is a XML file. Testng.xml file is a file where you configure and control your test. Okay, you configure your test and you can control the execution as well. Okay, in the next video I'll show you how you can use the same testng.xml file on the method level. Okay, you can exclude and you can include methods in your execution. Okay, so because I'll just quickly tell you something. So for example, within art you have these many tests, right? So if you want to exclude this from execution, then you can specify in this file. Okay, within class there will be method and you can just use exclude there, and then that will testng will ignore that execution, I mean ignore that method, and execute rest of the method that you have within that class. Okay, so that's all in this video. I hope everything was clear. I'll see you in next video. Thank you so much.